because as the baby is growing, it presses down on the urinary bladder, and so the pressure is going to activate all of those receptors that say you need to urinate. The sad thing is, you go to the bathroom and only a little bit of urine comes out, you know, so it doesn't, it's not quite what you would hope for. So the urinary bladder here, the detrusor muscle primarily, here's where the right, excuse me, isn't it?
Can you turn the light off to see if it's a little bit easier to see it?
Okay, let's turn on auto. Yes, ma'am.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. This area right here, oh, this is all good stuff, so we'll just look at it from this perspective. This right here is found on women, not really much on men. It's called the mons pubis. The mons pubis, M-O-N-S. The mons pubis is a big piece of fat, basically, here, so that during intercourse, there is a protective fat there because it can get pretty rambunctious. So women have this to kind of protect them. Okay. I don't even know if that's listed on here or not, but it's still interesting that there is that additional fat, that men don't have that. Now let's see, I was going to make this wider just a tad here. There, that's good. So here we see the urinary bladder. Okay, so the left ureter is coming in right there, and that's where the one-way valve is going to be. Then as you go down, you're in the trigone and all that we've looked at from the previous urinary system. Now, as we look at the uterus itself, we see that it is a fairly large structure that is made out of smooth muscle as well. Now, it has to be made out of smooth muscle because it's only smooth muscle that has plasticity. And that is, it can be stretched because it doesn't have sarcomeres. Remember now, there are no myofibrils inside smooth muscle. Instead, the myosins and actins are scattered throughout the cell, and they can pick up anywhere they want to and have contraction. So during, I have a student, Kate, you might know Kate, Kate Gossett, in my 210 class, and she is getting fairly large now, okay? And that growth is because of the baby taking up space inside the uterus. So the uterus is expanding dramatically, and as it expands, it becomes thinner and thinner, okay? All right? And this is why some women have to have a cesarean section. Julius Caesar was born that way. So was Macduff and Macbeth. And that's some play. But anyway, so sometimes women can't get the baby out. Won't come out the birth canal itself. And so one of two things got to happen. The baby has got to come out, or both mommy and dad and the baby will die. So the only thing you can do is basically cut open the uterus and take the baby out, or the uterus will rip, because at some point it's so thin, contractions are so strong, then you know, the hand, the foot, the elbow, or whatever comes out of the uterus, and it ruptures the uterus, and then every bad thing's going to happen then. So you have to be able to do that. This, of course, is the fallopian tube. These are ligaments. We'll look at these in just a second. But this is the fallopian tube that's in the wall. This portion of the fallopian tube is called the intramural fallopian tube portion. Intramural fallopian tube portion. Okay? I guess what we ought to do is, well, we'll just keep doing it this way. That's fine. We have a problem with this model. You can't see. Let's just look at the things that we can see clearly and talk about them. Now, when we look inside, we see an ovary. Now, ovaries aren't real big unless you have one that's inflamed, or you have a cyst or something like that in an ovary. A lot of people do have cysts on a regular basis. They're fairly painful in their ovaries, and sometimes it interferes with the ability to have egg drop. Okay? Now, this is kind of again, I mean, these things are a little bit weird, but we've already said that eggs begin as a primordial follicle, and that this becomes a primary, then a secondary, then a tertiary, which is going to be filled with liquid, and we'll talk about this liquid. And this big area filled with liquid has the secondary oocyte in it. It's very close to the surface. At some point, the pressure will rupture the ovarian epithelium. There's a one thin layer of epithelium around the ovary, and the egg will come out. And I mean, it just comes out, all right? So where's it going to go? Well, it turns out we have a safety net at the end, the most distal portion, if you're looking at it from the uterus perspective, and it's called fimbriae, and it stands for fingers. So you have a little hand that is on the ovary, and these are called fimbriae. And the fimbriae are actually going to move here, and they will get the egg. So the egg drops into the fimbriae. Now that is, to me, just, I mean, that's pretty crazy, really, when you think about it. But it is what it is. So women have this big net. So when they ovulate, that egg is captured into this portion. It's the beginning of the fallopian tube. It's the most proximal to the ovary, but it's the most distal to the uterus. So the very, very beginning of the fallopian tube is these fimbriae, okay? So that's marked for you. No, it's not marked for you on this model. You know what? That's kind of sad.
It is.
Is it?
It's on page 3.
So, oh, on page 3. Okay. Well, as long as it's on there, that's good. Okay. Now, we have how to put this? A funnel. That's it. So when the egg goes into the fimbriae, there is a funnel, and of course, the funnel shape, infundibulum means funnel shape. So your pituitary is attached by the infundibulum, and this next little area is where the egg kind of rolls down this funnel called the infundibulum. Yeah. So the next portion is a funnel part, and it's right here, and it's called the infundibulum. So this area here is shaped just like a funnel, and then it goes into, now this is not real great because it's not swollen, but there's a little swelling here called the ampulla. Ampulla means swollen area of a tube. That's what ampulla means. It means swollen area of a tube. So we got our net, the fimbriae. We have our little funnel to roll the egg down, the infundibulum. It goes into a little swollen area in the fallopian tube, and now we're in the tube. Okay, we're in the tube. In the tube, da 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 da, in the tube. See if that's what's it for you here, all this little stuff. All right, so yep, I see it now. Now the bulk of the tube is called the isthmus of the fallopian tube. So from here all the way down to the intramural portion is the isthmus. This portion is the ampulla. The funnel part here is the infundibulum, and then these are the fimbriae. So this is what's going on.